Hello and happy Friday. Welcome back to I'll Knit If I Want To. I'm Andrea of Andrea Renee Knits, and I am thrilled that it is cold and rainy today. It was really hot here, as I know it was in much of the US. We are not great hot weather people, so I was delighted to go on a chilly, rainy run this morning and to put on a sweater. And I made a new dress that I'm so excited about. This is the Orchards dress by Vivian Xiao Chen. And I just finished it this morning. I put on these fun little red buttons. So anyways, I'm just having a great Friday and I hope you are too. So let's answer some questions. I'll Knit If I Want To is a little weekly Q&A where I try my best to answer your questions. So here we go. Question number 1. By the way, I'm also wearing my sweater is the LYS cardigan, little yellow sweater. Okay, back to the questions. Hi Andrea, I am super curious about your spinning. What kind of spinning wheel do you have? I have a shocked matchless. I got it through Port Fiber here in Portland, Maine, and I love it. I have a good friend who you may know from Spin Cycle Yarns. Her name is Kate, and she gave me the tip to get a shocked matchless. And I also loved that they use some little bike parts. I was a big bicyclist for a long time, so I just loved that about them. And I do recommend though, in regards to wheels, if you are thinking about getting into spinning, wheels can be quite the investment. And so if you do have a local shop that teaches spinning or that sells spinning wheels, if you can go try out a couple, I think that is awesome because you can make sure that the wheel really feels good for your body and that you like the way it spins before you make that investment. So I got to do that when I took lessons at Port Fiber to learn how to spin. And what is your default spinning yarn? Weight, how many plies, fractal, random? So I do tend to love a fractal spin if I'm spinning dyed fiber, and I do love to spin dyed fiber. It makes it very fun. So I usually spin that fractally. I kind of got into a 3-ply groove. I like the strength it offers. But I also will do a 2-ply. Sometimes I feel like I like how the 2-ply looks better fractally. But my favorite yarn I've spun today is actually an undyed CVM. I'll grab a skein of it just a second. And I did 3 plies. I'd say I generally end up spinning about a sport weight, which I'm happy with. I love a sport weight. So I have a whole sweater's quantity of this, and it is so amazing. I have a little swatch I can show you too. I know it's not like super exciting to look at because it's just like oatmeal colored yarn, but I'm so happy with how it turned out. These are my swatches when I was deciding how to ply it. So I spun it all up and I just kind of spun it to my default. Not really sure. I hadn't completely decided on my ply. So I made these little swatches and I did one 2-ply and one 3-ply, and they're both really nice. But I found this is the 2-ply, so it's a little bit lighter. And I feel like you can kind of see the unevenness a little bit more in my spinning. Once I took it to a 3-ply, I just loved how like round the yarn got. And so that's what I decided to go with. I actually have a little ball of it here from knitting my little swatches. So I ended up doing 3-ply, and now I just have to decide the perfect project for it. I was talking to Casey, who owns Port Fiber. She's the one who taught me to spin, about like I try very hard to not be somebody who puts my fiber or fabric or things like that into like precious mode where then you're afraid to use it and it just lives on a shelf, because I really believe that we should use those precious things. But this is a little precious, and I'm like, I have to think of the perfect thing, because I can't just buy more. I mean, I can get more of the fiber probably, but it won't be the same exact fiber, and it was a lot of work to spin all that up. It took a lot of time, especially for 3-ply sport weight. And you know, spinning just kind of undyed oatmeal colored fiber isn't super exciting spinning, but I think CVM might be my favorite fiber to spin, and I love what it spins into. It's so squishy. So I actually just got a like charcoal colored CVM. That is my next kind of big spin that's gonna take me a while, so I'm kind of gearing up for it. I actually just got an e-spinner, so I can't say much about it yet. I haven't gotten it yet, but I'm really excited for that. I do have some lower back pain I've been dealing with, which sewing and spinning really aggravates it. But I'm hoping maybe being able to use an e-spinner. There's something about the way I sit when I spin. If anyone has tips on a good chair for spinning or sewing, please leave me a comment below and let me know, because it can really hurt my back. So I'm kind of trying to figure that out. But so yeah, my default plies is typically between 2 and 3, sport weight, fractal for color, otherwise obviously not anything that special. And yes, the next part of this question is, have you knit things from it? I would love to see what you have made. I have. I think that once you start knitting with handspun yarns, it's hard to go back. It's so satisfying. So one of my first projects, and I just went and pulled these out, and it's summer here, so I have not worn this in a little while. And there's like a big crease from it being folded. I was like, oh, I should have prepped for this, like a good little blogger, but I just am not that on top of things. So this is my first sweater I've knit out of handspun. This is my nurtured sweater. Oh, I'll put a little link to that so you can see it. And this was, actually my journal right here. I can't remember the fiber exactly, but it's from Maine. There's a little mohair in here, and it might have even just said like Maine grown wool or something, but I got it from Port Fiber. It's definitely kind of thick and thin, not super even. I think I did a 2-ply. It's been a while since I did this one. But I think the nurtured sweater works so perfectly for that kind of uneven hand spun, because it's such a textured sweater that I think it looks really nice. And I love, it's really soft. It has great drape. So yep, there's my nurtured sweater. And then I have my great friend, Kay Yamamoto, who gave me this fiber that you see the brown in here. One second, I just want to make a note of this one as well. So, sorry about that. So she gave me the brown, which this came from her friend who breeds sheep, and she specifically breeds them to create a good like hand spinning fiber. And then the colored yarn you see here is actually from my pals over at Spin Cycle. When they taught a dyeing class at Squam Art Workshops, there was leftover dye that you can't dump, so they had to soak it up with fiber, and so they gave me the fiber. They're kind of like waste fiber, and I spun this little 3-ply up to make this little sweater for my son. The brown you see is also a 3-ply, and yeah, I think it's super cute. It looks super cute on him. Unfortunately, I think he's gonna be one of those people that's kind of sensitive to wool. So my mom thinks I should buy him a turtleneck to put on under. I'm like, oh, it'd look cute on my daughter too. Actually, she could wear it probably like over a little dress. So maybe I'll see if she wears it. But, and then I also have, I knit another old port hat, which has a nice little double-lined brim to keep you warm. So my dirty little secret, when I'm knitting things just for me that aren't like new patterns for publication stuff, I'm really bad about remembering to weave in the last couple ends. So there's a loose end in here. This was the white I did not spin. That's Emiac, their fingering weight. I think it's their cloud. And then, but this is a fiber that I got from Spun Right Round. And then my socks. So there's a picture of these on Instagram. This was my first like proper fractal spin. Not woven in on either pair. And I've worn these so many times. I'm awful. There's probably one in the toe too. These are my DRK Everyday Socks. And that is knit out of my hand spun. I believe, I would think I would have done a 3-ply for socks, did I? I'm not sure. I should have looked at all my notes. Oh my goodness, I've already been talking for 10 minutes. Can you tell I like to talk about spinning? So, oh, what fiber is this? I can't remember. It's on Instagram if you dig through. But anyways, that was my first fractal spin. So there's some of my spins. I'm gonna move on. I've been talking about spinning for too long. All right, Steeking with superwash. I want to make the Stonecrop Cardi, but I'm worried about steeking with superwash yarn. Love your podcast and look forward to hearing your advice about this. So the Stonecrop Cardi was designed with superwash yarn. So I knit this this is Magpie Fibers Domestic is the blue, which is a superwash yarn. It's a really crunchy one. It's not like a super slippery, super soft, like merino cashmere blend or anything like that. It does have a little grip to it. And then Spin Cycle yarns dyed in the wool. So those are both superwash yarns. And it steeked beautifully. I had no problems. I do think that if you're concerned, I recommend doing a sewn reinforcement. So there's different reinforcement techniques you can do. I've worn this sweater a lot. I don't have like the prettiest. Some people put like a ribbon over it to make it look nicer. You guys are seeing like all my dirty little secrets. But I started with a crochet, and then because it was superwash, I was like, you know, just to make sure everything's strong, I just ran it through my sewing machine with a zigzag stitch. You can't even see it. Maybe if you look like really closely. I'm gonna try and boop, see if it'll focus not on me. But yeah, worked great, no problems. So you can. If you're worried about it, I would just choose maybe not a super slippery superwash yarn. And if you're really worried about it, use a non-superwash. That's traditionally kind of like a woolly wool, will kind of felt and grab onto itself a little bit better, but I think it's fine. All right, next question. I am wondering I am wondering how to try on a top-down sweater as you go. Do you put the stitches on scrap yarn or extra needles to allow for the stretch of trying it on? What do you do? Thanks. So I have an extra long cord that I bought. So I use interchangeable needles. So that means that the tips and cords are separate and you screw them together. And I ordered one of the longest cords that they have. So it's over 60 inches and I will just put a good portion of my stitches on there. I don't usually put them all on there. And then I leave the rest on my working needle. And then I will just slip that on and try it on. If you don't have a long enough needle, just go ahead and grab some waste yarn and string it through. And I mean, it does take time. It's going to take a few minutes to transfer those stitches onto either a spare needle or waste yarn and then to put them back on, but it's really worth it to then have the confidence that your sweater is fitting how you want it to, or to be like, I need to make some adjustments, change sizes, whatever it may be. But yeah, that's all I do is I use a long needle. Okay, in color work on the yoke at the beginning of round where one is changing colors every row, how do you keep the color change seamless? What method do you recommend? I have tried a few, but still see the joining of the new color and it looks quite unsightly. So unfortunately, that's just kind of how it is. I don't know of any special method. I have fiddled around with jogless stripes if it's a decent amount of like a thick enough band of color where that kind of will help. But I mean, you can see here, so if you look for it, you can see my beginning of round going down here. But honestly, when somebody's wearing a sweater, I just don't think anyone's paying attention, or at least they shouldn't be. But I totally get how it can just, some of us can be perfectionists with what we make and we want it to be perfect. But I do always recommend the kind of like putting it across the room and seeing how much your eye really tries to find that. There are some people who will, if it's an all over color work like this, they might move it to the back, like to the shoulder, and then bring it down the side seam so it's more hidden than just doing it down the center back. As you can see, I don't care, so mine goes down the center back. But you could always do some duplicate stitch or some fiddling around if it really gets to you. But you might also want to do cardigans. Cardigans, you can have that steek column. You know, that's where you're going to change your round. It would be hidden in this within the steeks, or even if you're knitting it back and forth, so then there is no jog. But that's just the nature of knitting in the round, is we are knitting on a spiral. We're not knitting a perfect tube. It's like this. And so there is going to be that jog. You could certainly try my jogless stripes method. I have a video tutorial for that here on my YouTube channel, so you could check that out and see if that works for you. I haven't found it to work as well as I would like it to. I don't think it's always that well suited. I think it depends on the motif. So I think just playing around, I mean, experimentation. If anyone else has any tips, please leave them in the comments below. And I'm wondering what tips you have for styling sweaters. I always love to see your outfits of the day. So I don't know if I have tips necessarily. I think finding styles that you love and that you feel good in. And actually, I found this the other day. So as some of you who follow along with my newsletter on Instagram know, I've talked a little about it here, but I've really been getting into sewing. It's like it finally clicked in my brain. And I had a moment the other day where I had made a new pair of overalls. I made the Burnside bibs. And when I first put them on, I was like, oh, I don't know if these, I don't know if I'm feeling these. Like I didn't feel confident in them. And all of a sudden I had this little like flashback back to when I remember one of the very first times I wore one of my hand knit sweaters out of my house. I wore it to go grocery shopping. My daughter was an infant. And I remember going through the grocery store thinking like, everyone knows I made this. Like, I don't know, I had this kind of like self-conscious feeling around it. And I was really nervous. And I think that is kind of part of it. As societies, we've moved away from making our own clothing and everything store-bought. I think sometimes we almost have to muster up a little courage in the beginning to wear what we've made out there. There can be a little vulnerability there. I don't know if everyone feels this way, but I did. And I remember at that time making the decision to wear something I had made like every day, like something I had knit. So even in the summer, I'd carry a shawl or whatever it may be with me. And now I wear my sweaters and my knits and I don't think twice about it. Like, I pick clothes that will go with my sweaters. Like, if I'm shopping, now that I'm sewing, like, I specifically have that in mind. Like, what sweaters of mine would this look good with? Or how can I style this with my knits? So I think practice and really paying attention to what do you feel really good in when you put it on. Like, I can definitely be affected by my clothing choices, and on days where I'm not feeling great in my clothing, I don't have like the best attitude for the day. And there's other days where it's like my superhero outfit where I just feel great. It's my power suit. Typically that's overalls. I'm feeling it in the dress. So I think kind of seeing which of your sweaters you've made that you just feel awesome in. And then you'll kind of see how you like to wear it. I personally love wearing like cropped sweaters and things like that under overalls or over dresses. I like to wear high-waisted skirts and trousers. So I find in general shorter sweaters that are a bit more fitted tend to work for my style in that way. And then I have other sweaters that I like to wear with like leggings to be like comfy cozy, and then I like it to be a little more oversized, maybe a boxier fit. So I think it just depends on what style you want to wear that day and which of your sweaters kind of suits it. But the more you do it, I think the more fun it is, and the more you kind of start coming up with new ideas for outfits to do. So if you don't already, follow me over on Instagram. That's mostly what I post these days is my outfits because I do a lot of sewing and knitting, and then I like to put them together and take a picture. I also have found, I actually just started doing this because I go through ruts where I'm like, I don't know what to wear. What do I usually wear? It's like I forget. So I've actually started a little album in my phone called Outfits. And then when I have one of those outfits that like makes me feel super awesome, I'm like, yeah, I feel really good today. Then I take a picture and I put that in my little album. And yeah, I can look back through there and be like, oh yeah. Especially if I'm having kind of like a funky day where I just don't feel awesome. Then I'm like, okay, I need to go put something on that makes me feel really good and like full of joy and happy and like makes me feel like me. I think that is my driving force between the clothing I make is what makes me feel like me. You know, like, have you ever felt that way? Like sometimes you put on clothes that makes you feel like you're playing dress up and being someone else. And then there's other times where you put on clothes where you're like, yeah, like, this is who I am. So anyways, all right, some bonus questions. I got a question asking, what shawl is that? So that's the Ramble shawl. I released it quite a few years ago. It is a herringbone brioche that I love that it looks like big knit stitches. I'll throw a link. I'm gonna go ahead and type this right here. And then I had numerous questions asking if there would ever be a shifty cardigan, and there will be. I've already got it going. I'm not sure how soon it will be released because I still gotta knit it, but it is in the works and I'm pretty excited about it. So there will be in the future. All right, I think that's it. If you haven't already, come join us over in the DRK Adorn Yourself Knit Along. Right now, as those of us in the Northern Hemisphere are getting through summer, it's great to have a little project, especially during busy summer trips, camping, all that fun stuff. Sometimes it's nice to just have a little hat or a pair of socks or a cowl on the needles that's easily portable and that's not covering you in like a wool blanket in the heat. So there's a link for that below. My Ravelry group is where we're hosting the forum, but you can definitely jump in on Instagram as well with the hashtag DRK Adorn Yourself KAL. We would love to have you. And if you aren't already, make sure to subscribe to my newsletter. I am hoping in the next week or two to show a little sneak peek of my Rhinebeck sweater. So I am going to Rhinebeck in October. I'm super excited, and I'm gonna be releasing the sweater in like two and a half weeks. So I thought I'd send out a little sneak peek soon as the pattern's getting all wrapped up. So if you don't already, jump over there. I also, in about a month, my birthday sale's coming, so you'll definitely want to be signed up for the newsletter for that. You can find all those links below, right below this video. There's a show description, just click show more, and that's gonna show you all the questions we chatted about today, links to everything I've mentioned. And if you enjoy this, hit that subscribe button. There's also a bell you can tap, and then you'll get notified every time I put out a new video like this, a weekly Q&A, or a new knitting tutorial. I also am gonna work on doing a how I wear my shawls video because I've been getting loads of requests for that as well. Shawls can be tricky to style, so I am hoping to drag Spicy Pete up here to make him shoot a little video of me putting on all my shawls. Maybe he'll write some music for it too, make it extra special. All right, I hope you have a fabulous weekend. To those in the US, happy 4th of July. It's gonna be rainy and cold here, so I think we're just gonna snuggle up. But yeah, happy knitting. Talk to you later.